What is up, my friends? In a Violent Nature is a brand new horror film from writer-director Chris Nash that turns the genre upside down, or at least flips the point of view. If you're into horror movie news at all, you've no doubt heard about this film that's coming out that's filmed from the perspective of the killer. And it's a very unique idea. Did they manage to pull it off, or are there going to be some axes on the chopping block? I don't even know if that's a phrase. That's what I'm going to be talking about today, because I have now seen In a Violent Nature, and so this will be my spoiler-free review. If you're worried about spoilers at all, you are all good. But let's get straight to it. Before I dive in, as always, make sure you smash like and subscribe if you're new here. A like, a comment, a sub goes a long way, and if you do, I promise not to stalk you through the woods. But before heading into this movie, I truly had zero expectations. All I knew was that this time we're going to be following the killer and not the, predictable group of teenagers, and honestly, that's exactly what happened. But if you're not familiar, the synopsis reads, when a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods that entombs the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 60-year-old crime, his body is resurrected and becomes hell-bent on retrieving it. And after watching this, my initial thoughts are that, well, first off, I hid all of the lockets inside my house, so no more lockets anywhere. But aside from that, I think that I may have just kind of misunderstood it. You can tell by that synopsis that it's going for something. There's more to this story than just a killer that kills people. But I fully thought that all of that was just kind of a joke. Truly, up until about 80% of the way through this film, I was laughing and having a great time. Because I thought that this movie was just a satirical play on the killer versus the teenagers, like I said. And my whole theater, honestly, was laughing a lot. Like, everybody was having a good time. But then you get to the ending chunk of the movie, and there's this very long monologue given by one of the characters. And so they started giving this monologue, and it started coming across as really serious, and I had this kind of epiphany in that moment, oh shit, did I just completely misunderstand this thing? Was this thing trying to be serious the whole time? And I'm honestly still not sure. If you've seen this movie, please let me know your thoughts down below, because what was fun about this movie for me was that you have this killer, Johnny, and he has this mask, and it's very similar to other masked killers. He just kind of stalks around and is rather slow, and so it was quite hilarious watching him just casually strolling up to these characters. And when flipped, if you were watching from the other perspective, you'd be like, oh my gosh, where is he? But instead, you're watching him, and he's just kind of I think I'm gonna go over here and maybe grab this axe, and then maybe I'll go kill that guy. And also the amount of time, you see it in the trailer, if you've seen the trailer for this film, but the amount of time just watching him walk through the forest. The amount of time that is spent watching him walk is comical. It's gotta be, I don't know, I would take the over on 30 minutes. And I just really don't know how else to look at it. Even if I watched it again, I think I would find myself laughing. It's not that scary of a movie because you can see the threat the entire time. And he can go underwater, and he has super strength, and you find yourself, at least I did, kind of just rooting for this dude. You're like, yeah, get that stoner, man. And the dialogue is so stereotypical, it's so on the nose that it was just funny. And so I was just having a ball. The way that I was perceiving it most of the film was that they were just paying homage to Friday the 13th, or at least just to Jason himself. It was very 80s cult classic, but hearing the lines delivered on the other end was hilarious. And all the tropes are there. Somebody's wandering off alone, or somebody's deciding to stay back alone. And when he finally is done walking for an hour and a half or whatever, and he meanders on up to him, the kills are extremely memorable and unique and just awesome. And yes, they are really gory. It's a gore fest, and reminiscent of some of those old school 80s horror movies. I will note that it is set in present day. It's not set in the 80s, so you do kind of have that element thrown in there. And then there's also, and I guess I haven't talked about this, but there's a side to the film that is just very eerie and is kind of keeping you on the edge, and that's why I found myself just kind of confused most of the ride, because I didn't really know how to feel. This film doesn't have a score. There is no composed score for it. All there is is sound. And so if the killer is in a room and there's music playing in that room, you're hearing that music. But as soon as he steps outside of the door, it's back to nature. Nature fills your ears. And I think, probably a lot of us, if you've ever been alone in nature, it's very strange because it's quiet, but it's not quiet. There are so many distinct sounds happening all around you, and sometimes it can just get louder and louder, especially during tense situations or if you're scared or whatnot, if you're camping or something like that and you think you hear something. And that's really where the last part of the movie comes into play. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's just the sounds of the nature that are frightening. The tagline for this film is "Nature is unforgiving," and I get that. It's just you're kind of walking along with this killer and he's killing people, and then the film sort of tries to get really focused. And that was my oh shit moment. It seemed to me that it went from this 80s slasher popcorn horror film and turned into like a psychological piece. And I'm not sure if that worked for me, but I'd love to hear if it worked for you. I think no matter what, I want you guys to watch this film for the kills alone. There's a few of them that are just like downright crazy, but there's one in particular that made me feel extremely uncomfortable, and it wasn't in like a visceral sense, it was more situational. What happens to this person and how it is happening to this person is just one of the craziest things that I've seen, and so you should at least watch it for that if you're a big time horror fan. But I guess lastly, I'll just say, Johnny, the man in the mask, you're awesome, dude, and I don't have your locket, so please just don't come looking for me. But just like with every movie, I have to give my Jones Vibe star rating. I want to let you know that this is based purely off of my enjoyment level, and my friends, I am giving In a Violent Nature 3 out of 5 stars. No doubt. But again, if you saw this movie, please let me know all of your thoughts down below. If you haven't seen this movie, do you plan to? And what do you think about the idea of filming a movie from the perspective of a killer? Let me know. And also, guys, before you head out, make sure you smash like if you haven't already. Click on another video, and then you can also follow me on X if you want to reach out. I'm at Jones Vibes Only. And don't forget to keep up the good vibes. But after watching this movie, I guess I agree. Nature is unforgiving.